Always learning and growing. Attracting the right people and keeping your vision in focus every day. This is the Brian Covey Show.
Welcome back to another episode of the Brian Covey Show. I'm super excited today as I listen to the music come in. We have, well, for a bass player, probably the coolest person to hang out with, fellow drummer here. And I'm super excited, guys. You're going to love this one with Rich Redmond. You've probably seen or heard about Rich, so I'll give you a little background on him because I think that's always fun to know. But he's been touring for over 2 decades with Jason Aldean. He's obviously cut a lot of other tracks. I think somewhere around 26 #1 hits. So you may not know who he is behind the kit, but he's the drummer there. And then Rich also is a speaker and an author, an entrepreneur that I thought would be cool to bring on today because based on where we are, and I love the fact that we can learn from people that are going through different seasons of life. They have different insights in there. So Rich, my friend, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Man, this is awesome. I feel like we probably could have done something where like we get the kit set up on your side. I'd get the bass out and like we would do a little mini concert for people, but maybe next time. Right? Yeah,
it's that pesky latency. They haven't gotten it down yet to where there's just that millisecond delay. Even on like Cisco WebEx, there's a delay, you know.
Well, it's been crazy. I don't know about you, but I've watched some of my friends that have done the actual live concerts and they've done the virtual, and I feel like thank you for all the musicians and all the artists out there that you've actually done that and given back, because I know for all of us that love music, this has been one of those seasons where I can't remember the last concert I went to. It's been that long.
Right.
Yeah. Well, man, I'm excited today. Let's give everybody, I gave them kind of a little bit of background there, but let's tell them what is Rich up to today, because obviously with drumming, and then I know out in California, doing your thing there. Your book launched last year. You got your podcast, which I've been listening to and love. But what are you up to these days?
Oh man, so yeah, I'm sure all your listeners are finding ways to cope and survive and still grow and try to be happy during these crazy times. But March 13th, our last 2 tour dates were canceled. I jumped on a plane out to here to sunny Los Angeles to spend some time with my girl, Kara, a fashion designer, and we've been quarantined together. We have our little social pods where we'll go and stay 6 to 12 feet away from people, which is just so crazy. I think this whole thing is going to end up like having lasting impact on human social behavior. It's going to be really interesting to see how that all works out. But, I just kind of live in the land of edutainment, so I have a teacher's heart. I've had some great teachers in my lifetime. I'm a product of music education. And so I like to live in that land of being an educator and then, of course, being an entertainer. And under those 2 umbrellas, I'm able to, write books or write for magazines and do drum tracks for people on other continents, and just kind of keep that whole ball of creativity moving forward. As long as I'm being creative every day in some way, I'm usually pretty happy.
We can tell it's almost that creativeness for you that drives you. And I love how you branched that out, because obviously there are a lot of podcasts out there now, and obviously we're doing one here. But I love that you've taken a unique twist, and you do have, I was listening to some of the drumming lessons and some of the things there you share as well, which is super cool. And then the piece that was really kind of fascinating to me is, I know we'll get into later on this crash piece. But before we do that, I would love to know, this is what I think everybody's wondering, is during quarantine, a guy like you on the road all the time, right? I mean, that's your life. I traveled for our company and for what I do. How have you kind of managed that where you were out in front of millions of people during a year?
Yeah.
And now you're kind of home. You don't get to go hang out with the band anymore. You don't really get to go speak in front of large audiences. You're like many of us, we're trying to figure out a new way. How has Rich adapted, and what are maybe some of the things that you've learned through that season a bit?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm a social animal. I'm an extrovert, so every time I talk to someone's like, well, I'm an introvert, and is that still possible to achieve? Like, great. I'm like, sure, there's tons of introverts in the world that have achieved amazing things that have changed the world. But yeah, I mean, I love people. I'm just a big fan of people. I get that from, you know, my parents. They were real social creatures. They always had a vibrant social life. They still do. You know, there's, you know, 74, 75 years old. But yeah, I miss it. I mean, obviously, I mean, when this whole thing started, we were all doing our Zoom happy hours, and I don't even know if that's happening anymore. I'm still trying to keep it alive. I did one on Friday with our friend Jim McCarthy, who produces the music to your podcast, the intro. And yeah, I cannot wait to get to a point where I can just, like, you know, we went to go see my girlfriend's parents, and we hadn't seen them in 6 months, and she couldn't hug them. It was just such a difficult thing. So I'm hoping that at some point I can go see my parents. I haven't seen them since Christmas. So yeah, it's a new thing.
We're right there with you. And we actually, this week, we were very fortunate. So we added, I've got a new nephew that came into the world on Monday. So like, we can't hold him. We can't really like do much around that, you know? And so I'm thinking, you know, you think about how the world has changed. And for those of us that are the extroverts, they're like, you know, human touch does matter. And it's like, man, you can just wave to people. You can say hello to them, but it's changed. And I wonder, you know, how much of that will ever go back, and like, what will concerts look like, right? Like going to the movies is going to look forever different. And
I mean, that's the last thing I really want to do, is get in a crowded, dark theater where even if you are distanced, someone can sneeze, right? And there's particles everywhere, and it's like, ooh, I think I'll just be streaming this film here on the comfort of my couch. But yeah, just that whole ritual of going out and putting on your best shirt and getting an Uber and going to your favorite restaurant, having a couple of cocktails and closing the place down. Like, I love that. You know, I miss that so much.
Yeah, we missed it. And my wife and I, we celebrated our 18-year anniversary this week. And so we got to our favorite restaurant. Yes, it's amazing. Like 18 years, you know, we got married young. But we got to go to the restaurant. And it was different because normally it would be, you know, a crowded restaurant. It's not a big one, but it was just the spacing and everything. You're like, wow, there's only probably 4 or 5 tables that have people. And it's just a different vibe, but it was nice. We were talking to the waitress about, you know, how is this for you? And you realize, putting yourself in other people's shoes, like how that world has changed. And I love her response, because it's kind of one of those enlightening moments of, I love this. Like, I get more one-on-one time I get to invest in. And she had this different perspective, which I know you're a positive, high energy guy.
That's a great perspective. That is a wonderful perspective. Yeah. I mean, so what restaurant is that? Where is that?
It's in Franklin, Tennessee, called Cork and Cow. And it's known.
Cork and Cow.
Yep.
Nice.
You'll have to, when you're back in town here, you have to go check it out. It's a little small and downtown Franklin. We love it. We do birthdays or anniversaries, and just an amazing, just kind of vibe to it. But the food is phenomenal, and everyone there, the staff is so welcoming. They knew it was the anniversary, but that perspective hit me. It was like, I love this.
Yeah, putting a positive spin on something that could be negative. I mean, I'm been studying acting for like 5.5 years, and I'm taking online classes. That's how I'm spending my time out here in Los Angeles, just trying to refine this very challenging craft. And so all my fellow classmates are, you know, they are all, you know, baristas and professional waiters. And a lot of them are, to make things happen, they're throwing themselves in this deep end of the pool with the gloves and the mask and the face shield, and they're having to serve food like this. And I'm like, man, that is so scary. It's a hard job as it is to wait tables. I mean, it's the extreme of multitasking, and they're having to add that other element is very stressful. I'm sure there's a lot of anxiety that's going to happen as a result of this time in human history. That's why it's more important than ever to try to stay grounded with either like self-reflection, meditation, growth, watching great films, eating great food, making time for yourself, something as simple as stretching just 5 minutes a day, hydrating, at least taking a Centrum, and, getting some vitamin D, sweating, look, like you're not a stranger to putting heavy objects over your head, I mean, look at your frame, man, and so that is something that will also helps this,
Yes. So. Gosh, there's so much, and we've talked about that, is that mental and physical connection there of our health. And hopefully during this season, people have realized that how much that matters. And, all the hustle and bustle and going so fast and like trying to tackle life, all that is great. But if you don't take care of yourself and crash and burn, like that is not a good recipe. So I would love to kind of unpack a little bit I was looking at your crash course here and some of the things there. And I love that you talk about not only the professional side, you know, what people do to actually earn a living in that world, but also their personal side. And so you've been teaching on this, and I know there's kind of 5 parts to that crash course. And I'd love to kind of just unpack that a little bit, because I think some of our listeners, you know, they join these and like, hey, what can I learn? Like, how do I become more in tune and improve myself? Well,
I got 5 things for you. And now I spoke on this subject for well over a decade without a book. And then I finally said, get off your butt, Rich. And Jeff Bezos has made it so easy for us all to become self-published. Yeah. And the book exists in a physical format. So Dead Trees arriving at your doorstep. You can download it to your Kindle or your iPad, or you can go to Audible. And it's actually, I think if you sign up for Audible, it's one of the free offerings. So it's free if you sign up for a trial on Audible, and I actually read you the book. But it's just 5 things. You could stick them in your back pocket. You can laminate them. You can say 10 years from now, oh, that Redmond guy told me about this thing. Commitment, relationships, attitude, skill, and hunger. Commitment, relationships, attitude, skill, and hunger. So these are 5 tenets, 5 pillars we can use individually, but if we use them collectively, you will be unstoppable. Because let's face it, we all want to be successful in our professional life, but also our personal life, because there's that cross-pollination. You know, we take the office home, we take our personal life to the office. And so we really have to get this right. So my 5 things are like, hey, commit to in your mind. People say like, hey, my New Year's resolution, I'm going to quit smoking. I'm going to lose 20 pounds, right? By the time Valentine's Day comes around, they're like, save the cheesecake. I'm going for a smoke, because they haven't. It has to start in your mind, and then everything will follow. So committing, to me, I committed to a craft, and I put in tens and tens of thousands of hours. And then I got myself to like a city of Nashville. I'm a crazy person. Like, Nashville needs another musician, but I went boldly into the night. I committed to that. And there was roadblocks and there was doors that were slammed in my face, but I had a vision and I had a focus and I followed through. And as long as we're making improvements every day, you're crushing it. And then relationships, cultivating sincere, hopefully mutually beneficial, lifelong relationships. Everything I've ever done in my life is not from monster.com. It's not from a resume. It's from people championing me and recommending me. So that's the ultimate grassroots marketing, is word of mouth, right? And it takes 10 years to develop your reputation, so it precedes you, and it takes 1 minute to destroy it, even 1 second. So we have to be so careful. And then attitude is 99.9% of life. It's the one thing people will always remember about us, always. And that enthusiasm is contagious. That's kind of a takeaway related to attitude. And then skill. I tell people, develop the skills you need to be successful in your chosen field, but never rest on your laurels, because the world is moving so fast. We have to run just to stand still. So we want to continually developing new skill sets. So that's why I'm learning new things and branching out, creating other revenue streams. And then I talk about hunger. And no matter what season of your life you are in, you want to stay hungry for success. So I try to stay tapped into that mind and that heart of that 16-year-old kid that got his first drum set and would come home every day, and would think about playing Madison Square Garden. And I did play Madison Square Garden, but not at 21. I played it at 41. And that's 20 years of having to stay tapped in to this formula, using these things collectively.
How cool is that, though? I mean, as I listen to you talk through those, I think most people are probably thinking, okay, I've heard those, Rich. Like I've heard all of those together, but I love how you talked about stacking them and like the cross-pollination, because I do think sometimes people underestimate. And I know I played soccer, and so thousands of hours there, thousands of hours playing bass, and like you played drums for thousands. And sometimes, you know, you kind of pick up in society today, people want this shortcut, right? Like, hey, I've only been doing this for 30 days or 90 days. I should be an expert. Not even true. Like, they forget the hard work. And so you went back to that, because that's something, you know, hopefully I'll impart to my kids, and people are out there. We talk about that as our team and our culture. So if you're somebody maybe that struggles with commitment, and we see that, right? I mean, you nailed it. Like, people come in the new year and like, I'm going to do this, this, and this. Look up by February, maybe even earlier. It's not happening. Are there any kind of secret ninja tricks or anything that you've said, okay, this is what, in the commitment space, this is what typically helps people overcome their fear of commitment or lack of staying committed?
Right. But, well, you know, I try to like read like super positive literature. And that's kind of really where I got a lot of this stuff from was that my mom always had this amazing self-help motivation library. Now, if you could find a real bookstore nowadays, which is really hard to do, usually one of the largest sections in the bookstore is self-help, right? And so this has been happening for a long time. It's all about that mindset. So the simple trick for me is I take pen to paper and I write down things. I write down my goals. And it's also in my iPhone. We have that, we can make lists. And I got that from my mom too. She was so methodical and so hyper organized. Of course, my dad was an accountant. My mom was a nurse. Hardworking people. I learned about work ethic from them. You know, as a young man, I raked leaves. I had a newspaper. I shoveled snow. When I got to Nashville, my day jobs were parking cars, making copies, waiting tables. I was a substitute teacher, K through 3. And so, but writing, because then it gets real. Otherwise, it's just floating around in the ether. But when you actually take pen to paper and you put some thought into it and you write it down and then revisit those things. And what I did when I moved to Nashville is I had a goal. I said, I will be a top call touring and recording drummer based in Nashville. It's almost like a very succinct kind of like Jerry Maguire statement. And then I laminated that and I had it in my car and on the microwave and on the refrigerator, and it was by my bed. And I just followed through with the steps I needed to make that thing happen. And I didn't put a time limit on it, like, oh, I'm going to give this 6 months. And some people are like, I'm going to give it 5 years. Hey, most things that we want to accomplish in life don't really happen until about year 5. Right? So if you start doing that math, and they say Nashville's a 5-year town, they say it's a 7-year town now. They're crazy. It's like, it's almost like the 7-year itch in a marriage or something, you know, but it's like, it just takes that follow through and not taking no for an answer and being politely persistent and just following through on your goals. So write those suckers down.
I love that, because you had absolute clarity about that. And I love the fact that you weren't afraid to dream that big, like even the Madison Square Garden, like you're going to play these big venues. And for many people, just getting clarity many times is that first step for them to understand, like, dream big. Like, if you can't dream it yourself, no one else is going to dream that for you and plant a dream or a seed into Rich, right? I mean, they may.
I mean, how difficult is it and competitive is it to become a professional soccer player? I mean, that's crazy. You know, that's like, it's like so, and it's like somebody that owns a drum set, like 0.00001% of the people that went out and bought a drum set and thought, I can do this. That little percentage of the people who can crack through the door and have the tenacity and the thick skinnedness, and they can fall in love with the rejection, and they have that vision to actually cultivate a career in professional sports, in the music business. It's the Wild West. There's no rules. Yeah. So the only thing that's going to save you is your persistence. You know?
I love that, and I know, probably coming up with you and similar for me in soccer, there were a lot of sacrifices. You know, the other night we were talking about with my daughter and like conditioning and doing sports and all that. I was like, yeah, I was the guy, like on a Friday night when all my friends were out, you know, partying and having fun and all that. Like, I would go out and run because it was so hot at night. So I would run extra and I'd get up early and do that. And the sacrifices to become the level you're at as a drummer. But then I love how you've branched off with that and you have the teaching side and you've gone into the book. I think that's where today we have a greater opportunity than we've ever had, you know, with social media and connecting with people. And like you said, you can publish a book and immediately get it in front of a wide audience of people and share that. And many times we just make these things too complicated and we underestimate the sacrifice. Like you said, that first 5 or 7 years could feel like a long time, but man, the payoff when you're passionate about something, and I can see that when you're talking even about things you're passionate about. And when you do that, it's not as bad. You know, it's like, I'm not in a job that I hate or doing something like, you know, people show up and like, I just don't like what I do anymore. And it's like, well, find something you can be excited and passionate about, right? Like, I
mean, if you love what you do, it makes it so much easier to work hard because it doesn't feel like hard work, right? And the harder you work, the more opportunities come to you, because it becomes a kind of a cycle of self-empowerment. So it's very important to choose the right thing. And I just feel like very, very fortunate, almost like it was a gift from God in the heavens above, that in 1976, I discovered this talent and I followed it and I chased it. And by the time MTV was born in 1981 and the Police's record came out in 1983, Synchronicity, I had already found my purpose between 11 and 13 years old, I said, I am going to do this. And here we are all these years later. It's really crazy. I just had my 50th birthday. I went out to Joshua Tree and I took these crazy little Dharma drums and we watched sunsets, and my girlfriend, you know, cooked all these amazing meals and got me an ice cream cake from Carvel. And it was just like, well, 50, but that's a lot of years of persistently and politely pursuing my dream.
Yes. And I love how, even you were talking about earlier, like you had to move to Nashville and you become this person that, like many people, come here to chase their dreams in Nashville. And you're like, cool, doors are slamming to my face. That happens. That's real. And in the music side, you know, I'm sure people would get mad at me if I didn't ask, but coming to Nashville, what was that kind of like, in a little bit of the story for you? Just because, look, we see it all the time. People just move here for that dream.
Yeah.
You know,
and they're smart to do that. I mean, because I get questions all the time. Hey, can I be a professional songwriter and have Tim McGraw and Jason Aldean and Garth Brooks cut my songs living in Des Moines, Iowa? And I say it's totally possible. There's really no rules in this business, but the thing that you're missing is the social aspect of meeting people, becoming part of the Nashville community, because people champion each other. And it's almost like you have to live in Nashville for at least 2 years. And then people will say, okay, you're a Nashvilleian now. You suffered for those 700 something days. And now you're part of our community. But it's the gatekeepers are there. So if I want to cultivate the career that I wanted to have in drumming, I was going to have to move to a New York, LA, or a Nashville. And even since then, the scenes there have changed. Like in New York City, it's mostly like you're in the tri-state area playing in a wedding bar mitzvah band, right? Or you're playing on Broadway. And look what happened to all my friends who are playing on Broadway. They're not working right now. So most likely they're even relying on their savings, another revenue stream, or they can't even play in the wedding bands anymore. It's like everything has been impacted. But I was in Dallas. I was part of that scene. I was playing on McDonald's jingles. I was in the cool Top 40 band. I was playing in big bands. I was teaching in the schools outside. I was killing myself to make a living as a freelance musician. I wanted to get to that next level, which was to be a touring and recording drummer, see the world on somebody else's dime. And I knew I just asked for help. And someone said, there's this girl named Trisha Yearwood that is auditioning. And then there was this girl named Dina Carter that was auditioning. And then there was this icon named Barbara Mandrell. So I flew myself from Dallas. I was doing these auditions, getting positive feedback from the people that were auditioning me. And then I finally learned that, like, hey man, you were great for all these jobs. You were like the runner up, but you didn't live in Nashville. So I said, ding, ding, gave my band 2 weeks notice, packed up the car, moved to Nashville, and then immediately started eating crow. You know, sometimes you have to take a step back to ultimately take a step forward. So going from having my master's degree from one of the most iconic music schools, the University of North Texas, being one of the top call guys in a major city, and then going to a city where no one knew me and no one cared. Wow. And I'm down on Lower Broadway playing for tips in a pickle jar. And sometimes I made less than my parking, you know?
That's the reality of what happened. So during that season for you, what were some of the things that drove you to continue to want? What was it, that big dream and goal you always had to play? Is that what kind of motivated and drove you to show up and to continue to grind through?
Well, we're all salesmen. We're all, I tell everybody, we're all entrepreneurs. We're all salespeople, because even if you're in corporate America, I have done 13 speeches for Cisco, and I have a friend. He's like, oh my God, the axe fell again. I lucked out. The axe fell again. I lucked out. But it's just the way it is. Even if you are in corporate America, you're self-employed, because that thing may end and you have to rely on some other skill set, dust yourself off. And, so God, it was just this idea that I'm selling a product, and that product is me. No one is going to hire me to ride around on that 45-foot tube and take the music to the people until they buy into me as a human being. So I had to really have those good interpersonal skills, a firm handshake, looking people in the eye, doing your best to remember names, follow up. A lot of people, they'll be at a cocktail party, they'll get a business card and say, call me tomorrow, and then they don't follow up. That's 99% of people. You have to be the person that is a self-starter that follows up, and remember that product is you. People aren't going to buy the widget from you until they buy into you.
Man, and that's gold right there. I'll tell you, because we talk about that, right? And our team, we help people buy homes, refinance, and do all that stuff. But we've really been harping on the past few years. Our industry's gone through this overhaul, and I think it was happening before, but we just kind of figured it out a little bit. Is your brand is you, and as people are creating that brand, I'd love to hear your tips, because what I love is I'm listening to you as you're talking about, Richard, like firm handshake, building out how your communication skills are. You didn't talk about actually drumming. However, I know you put hours and hours of practice into your craft, but yet you brought these other attributes around you. And I think that's what we're trying to teach people. So what advice would you give them on how they can start to build that out around their personal brand? Like whether they're an accountant, mortgage professional, real estate agent, all those people that our normal audience. Yeah. Where should they start to kind of build that? Because your strategy, that's resonating a lot with me.
Oh, well, man, I appreciate it. I tell people, hey, you can get an ear cleaning device at Walgreens and it's subpar. It doesn't even last. It breaks off. Or you can get a Q-tip. And even when someone says they're thinking about an ear cleaning device, they call it a Q-tip, right? So you want to be the Q-tip of your world. You want to be the Coca-Cola, not the RC, not the Pepsi. You want to be, there's a lot of noise out there, but there's this great thing called social media. I was an early adapter of social media. I jumped right on MySpace. I created so many international relationships, letting the world know that I exist, shouting from a mountaintop, I exist. Otherwise, I'm in my mom's basement and I'm the best drummer in my mom's basement. But you have to get out and let people know you exist. And then Facebook opened to the public after the college market. I jumped right on there. I was a very early adapter of that. And as the new technologies are coming, this is a free way to let the world know that you exist and what your message is. And there's nothing. Look at how effective something like is YouTube or Instagram is. People can see what you look like. They can see how you sound playing, and they can get a vibe or an overall essence of who you are as a person. And it's a great way to cut through that noise out there. Look at us with our podcasts. We're up against literally 1 million podcasts on Apple Podcasts. And so how are we going to separate ourselves from the pack? And these are free tools. And so if my trash sanitation pickup company has an Instagram and a Twitter, and they can figure out a way to make trash sexy, then whatever business you are in, you should do that, because if you don't, you're invisible.
Yeah. And we've seen like how many places have gotten replaced, right? The old Blockbuster is probably the one that people use the most. Like
I miss the Blockbuster.
I know, right? We went to that as kids. And now you look up and like we were talking earlier, look, we're not going to movie theaters. That world's changed. People are just going to stream from home, and the world has changed. I love how you're talking about that. To me, that's back to just innovation. And I love how you shared that, because that'll be something for people that are listening, just to think about, to your point, whatever it is that they do, you can brand yourself and you can connect with millions of people. And to be true and authentic to yourself, you're going to connect. And in that podcast space, we know it's busy. It's crowded. We separate. So we got a question over here. Chris is one of our guys, and he's actually a drummer as well. And he's toured and played and done some stuff there. We have some cool people on our team like this that we love having these guys. And he asked, how do you maintain the same drive and passion? Like when you started, but now you've reached a certain level, right? When people get success, they taste success, whatever level. How do you keep that drive, and what motivates and keeps you going?
Well, I'm so happy, and also just pat myself on the back that I haven't lost that childlike fire. I want to keep improving, because you know this very well. If you're not changing and evolving and growing, you're rotting on the vine, and that's not where we want to be. We want to stay relevant. Once you hit 40, 45, 50, you have a pedigree behind you. You have a nice little bio that says, I did this. Even if I die tomorrow, I left my mark. I still hopefully have a good 20, 25, 30 years left in me. And I want to impact people. I want to change their lives. That's really ultimately one of my purposes, is to affect people in a positive way and change lives. And I know I can do that through education. I know I can do that through entertainment. And I think as we get older, we realize, hey, I always wanted to be the drummer that could play any style of music in the world. And I've played so many different reggae. I played in bands where cumbia bands where I didn't speak Spanish and they're using hand signals. And you just go and you kick the jokes for the comedian and you back up the puppet show, and you're wearing your tuxedo and you do all these things with a smile on your face, but it gives you this experience and this reference point to say, okay, I need to be smarter now.
Mm-hmm.
Is it really smart for me to go into a practice room and work on playing extreme double bass metal so I can go play in some metal band with a guy that sounds like the Cookie Monster? You know, I'm never going to play it ever. So I can just remove that from my list. And so then the things that I know that I really want to work on and cultivate, I can really double down on and really be methodical about developing those skills. And also in my midlife, I guess they call it continuing education, but just learning new things that are in a creative space that breathe new life into the same thing that I've been doing since 1976. I mean, 44 years of playing the drums. Of course, there's going to be some times where you're a sad sack. You're not growing. I'm not doing this. Here, I'm going to rain on some Ben and Jerry's. But then hopefully the next day, you know, you snap out of it and you kind of reframe and keep moving forward. But I think we just get smarter. And I also think it's good to expand and try some new things. Take a drawing class, take a pottery class, take an improv comedy class, work with a speaking coach, you know, do these things. And I think you'll be a richer person. And then when you come back to your main grind, it's going to have a new feel to it.
Yeah. And I love, and that kind of, both of us have gone down that path, a little bit of podcasting in a way, like starting your podcast. And I'd love to hear kind of, you know, why you started it, but then, you know, what you've learned, because some of the experiences, you know, people are like, hey, why did you start a podcast? And I usually share them. I want to make an impact. I want to help people learn and grow. And then selfishly, I want to learn and grow. Like I want to become a better version of Brian. And it was something that scared me. I knew I'd be uncomfortable. I knew I'd have to like learn all this stuff. And thank goodness, I know Jim's on here listening too. It's like surround yourself with other people to teach you, right? Like that are further along than you.
People are an amazing resource. And a lot of, I'm so happy that I'm not shy, that if I want help, I just ask for it. You know, don't be shy. Just say, look, I don't know this. You know this better than, just surround yourself with people that are better at the things that you are horrible at. And then you will rise to the occasion. And also, hopefully, sometimes we pay them for their time and talent. And I'm the first person to pay someone right away for their time and talent, especially if they're great at what they do. And because then it's symbiotic. We both benefit. Yeah. I get one step closer to my goal, and they can work in their craft, and it's beautiful. It's a great thing.
Well, I love it. It almost ties back to that number 5 piece in Crash of hunger. And I think that's a piece of being hungry to grow and to learn. And to your point of like, I'm going to go invest here. And I've always found when I put money behind something, like I'm investing and I'm paying somebody for their time and their talents, look, there's something there, right? Then it's like, now we're getting some traction and learning. So,
for sure. Yeah. I mean, if we don't have hunger, we don't have Crash. I mean, it's almost like hunger is the most important piece, because hunger is, there is a lack of something and there's something you desire. And so you have to go after it. It starts there. You're missing something in your life. There's something the universe is tapping you on the shoulder and saying, do this, do this. And if we listen to the cues from people around us in the universe, like when someone says, I mean, selfishly, I started a podcast because it's a showcase for me, because I love hosting. Like I would like to have a side job as a host, and whether it be on traditional radio or satellite XM or television, cable television. And so this allows me to flex my muscle several times a week and interact with people.
Too. I love that too, because I mean, that's where everybody started. You look back at any of the ones they've made it, you know, and you're like, they started somewhere. They just didn't jump on and, you know, have this massive stage to get there. And we forget that. So man, I know we could cover a lot more ground. We've covered a lot today. I would love to ask you, is there anything that we didn't cover or touch on that you're like, hey, Brian, like this is something usually based in the framework we talked about, like I would want to share with the listeners that would help them through their journey? Because we covered some really cool stuff today that I think is impactful.
Well, you're a natural here, man. I'm so glad that you did this, because if you didn't do it, you would be depriving the world of this skill set that you didn't know you had.
And
you know what I mean?
Guys like you and Jim and some other people that have come along are trying to help bring that out. And I told us, look, I'm on the same journey you're on. like, I don't know where I am in it. I know I'm early. I'm a freshman or a rookie, whatever you want to kind of call. But let's tell people where they can find out more about Rich, and obviously your book and your podcast. And I know you're on Instagram. You're doing some drumming lesson stuff. You're all over the place. So where can people find out more about you and learn and go deeper on what we talked about today?
Well, man, I loved being here. You know, it was just Modern Drummer Magazine listed me as one of the 12 drummers to follow on Instagram. And so they're like all the biggest drummers in the world. And somehow I'm gratefully in the mix there, because I guess they just appreciated the idea that I'm just trying to throw educational content out there for people. And it's free and it's a way to give back. And what I've learned over the years is that if you want to keep your success and you want to keep enjoying success, you have to give it away. I'm not holding on to secrets. I share everything about my journey. And if I could shave off 5 years of someone else's journey from my mistakes and things that I learned about, then I am so happy to do that. But richredmond.com, REDMOND.com is a hub. You can learn about my drumming, my books, my speaking, my teaching, and even my acting. I'm exploring that thing the last 5 years. It makes me happy. And, you know, it's just Rich Redmond on all the socials. And God, if there's drummers out there, I have a YouTube channel with like 500 free videos on YouTube. So
I saw them, and man, I've enjoyed our time together today. I loved prepping for these podcasts. One of my favorite things is actually the prep work and getting to know people and like getting in their world a little bit and watching. And I love the energy you're bringing, the positivity, just how you're sharing your journey. Thank you for doing that, because I think too often, especially musicians, they don't really know what else they could do and they get stuck, you know, and it's like, what else could they do and contribute? And many of them have super talents and superpowers in other ways that they could really be that creative spark for kids, and they could educate people out there and spark that passion in them. So thank you for what you're doing out there. This has been a joy.
Well, thank you. And Jim and I will have you on our show. I want to learn about the soccer thing, man.
Oh, dude, we'll unpack it all next time. I'm actually working on the home office. I'm going to have to bring my bass up here. I told my wife, I said, you know, I feel like that should be moved into this room now. I need that creative, like I need to go step over there for a minute and play some bass. That's going to be awesome. But thank you.
I think it's great that when during your theme song, you should just learn that thing and then have that. And then you're sitting there with your bass. Oh. And then boom, you put it down. What's up? Boom. I think that's cool.
Okay. We're going to do the next one, or when I come on one of these, I'm going to learn that and we're going to pull that out, because that would be something. Just another challenge on the side to have some fun.
Totally.
Awesome. Well, hey guys, this has been another episode of the Brian Covey Show. Thank you so much for tuning in, whether you joined us live, which several of you did here, or you're catching the replay. Our goal is to bring you value and to add to your life and help you learn and grow to be your best. So make sure you like and subscribe and follow along in the journey here. And let us know if there's any guests that we should be bringing on that we have not yet. And we'll make sure to continually just bring back value to the community. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, you guys have a great rest of your week. See ya.